great tip, you know, it's all splayed out. All my small brushes are like this. I've taken pretty bad care of them, but it's probably good enough for dropping in now in more detail the eyes, for example. Everyone is always obsessed about the eyes, so and that's probably as much as I'll do for the eyes right now. What I'll do in addition is drop this kind of darker halftone of the, or well, darker shadow portion of the eye socket. It's really important for likeness, so just putting that in there already informed me that there's something I need to readdress, which is the back of the nostril. I've lost it, so can't really judge my the nose is looking wrong because of that, so just adding that in makes it look a bit more like the model. And this goes really far all the way up to the eyelashes there, and let's just blend it out a little bit. We kind of want to keep it soft at this stage. And yeah, just trying to place the eye somewhat accurately. I'm just gonna, probably you're not gonna see anything now since I put my hand there, but yeah, that's pretty much the degree I'll go into with the features, the degree of accuracy, I mean. Again, this looks weird because it's too contrasty and too sharp, and I think it looks like he's having a bit of an underbite now, so I gotta shave a little bit off. It's like it's a game of millimeters here, or like fractions of millimeters, and now it looks more like the upper lip is kind of coming over the lower lip, which is what the situation is. So now it looks a lot more like the baby. And let's see if we can actually drop the other eyes in as well. So this is there. So yeah, that's not bad. And here we see a little bit more space between the kind of the edge of the brow. So it's really important to like keep an eye on all the small shapes, like this shape here. If they start looking really weird, then you know, fix it. And that's pretty much all we see of the baby's other eye, so that's good. Yeah. So maybe something we can do now is go back to the larger brush and add some of the darker stuff for the ear here. Yeah, so the brush is a bit too large for that maybe, so I'll just kind of reinforce the dark with the smaller brush here. Well, again, we're not like coloring in the previous drawing, but like with sharp outlines, but we're kind of just working a bit more of the tone in there. And there you have it. Start in the back of the head here a little bit more. It's kind of looking weird how separate the outline of the ear is from the back of the head here. So let's just address that a little bit. So, and soften this edge here, so it looks like that it's shadow and not a line. So there we have a pretty nice tonal drawing there. Now for the head, I don't really know if there's much I want to actually like reinforce here. Maybe here with the mouth is something we can just kind of make sure it stays in the right place. Mouth is slightly darker than the surrounding areas because it's red. Well, redder, that is. And the skin around it and the local color is darker. So in this monochrome it's going to appear darker than the rest. Let's just kind of separate them there. Now we have all the features tackled. Let's just put in the nostril loosely here. Get back the lightness. And maybe, not sure if this is going to be a good thing, but actually, yeah, maybe that's already enough. Separating the ear a little bit. So now, like, what I see here is this is actually a dark greenish gray shirt here. But we're just going to leave it as a light shape now, and we're going to address the value change there later. I think it reads better at this stage like this. So now it's coming to the point where I'm actually like looking at the image a bit more like as a whole and not focusing on one thing at a time. You see that maybe we can use a bit more of the eyelashes here. And maybe shave a little bit of the shape here. So now, yeah, it's looking a bit better. And perhaps we can just go and place the eyebrow. Place a bit of the eyebrow back in, so since we kind of lost that weld tone. Maybe we can push this a little bit further here. So yeah, maybe I'll just show with the hand maybe a little bit how I actually would do the articulation. Just grab a bit of medium. Just hope I don't make a huge mess. I usually just want to use something like either pure mineral spirits or a medium that has a lot of mineral spirits in it to really like thin out the paint. So maybe the place I'm kind of concerned here now I want to lock in the drawing is, not sure how it's gonna go because my brush is so bad, but let me actually check if I can get a better brush from here. Probably one of these stiffer small rounds, maybe if they hold enough paint, then I can do that. So I'll just kind of try to reinforce the edge here. Again, here you can just go back and sharpen it. Ideally, you would do this in very small single straight lines. But I mean, it's best done on a soft brush, which I don't really have now. So something like that. And just follow the contour. Really like make sure where the outline is going. From here you can see like the difference of quality we want between articulated shadow edges like here and articulated outlines, which is here. The degree of sharpness is on a whole other level here versus here, because the shadows we want to keep soft. So since we're anyway gonna like blend the transition between the lights and the shadows, why make a single straight sharp line there to indicate this shadow edge? Because yeah, it's gonna be harder to hide that transition if there's something sharp underneath. So, and oil paint does turn transparent with time, so slightly. That's why you see this effect of pentimento in older paintings, where you might see like an extra limb in some paintings where they decided to switch the position of the model midway for the composition, and then the medium of oil paint betrayed them later and revealed their decisions to us. So if I have something like this in a shadow edge, the painting turns a bit more transparent with time. It might actually reveal a dark line there with time. Now that's a bit, you know, not everyone wants to concern themselves with stuff like that. It's kind of optional, but yeah, if you can make your work really high quality and you know how, then why not? I think it's the painter's job to make sure their product is really high quality and will stand the test of time. That's partly the reason I paint on aluminum composite panels. That and the fact that they're really handy. So yeah, let's keep doing this. This is taking a bit longer than it would actually because I'm trying not to, obscure the camera with my hand. Maybe actually using the mole stick here would be nice. So this is another tool. You can use a ruler, mole stick, whatever stick you have lying around. Some use like canes to just steady your hand and then make those nice drawing lines. Here we have the other hand going behind. It's kind of hard to tell what's going on because there's this magazine between the fingers. Not exactly an easy image to paint, having it feel real, but hey, it's what I signed up to do. Yeah, so that gives you an idea on how I could, go on to articulate this. I think I'll articulate the hand, but I don't feel I really need to articulate the entire image. Yeah, well, maybe I will because I can get a nice intermediate stage photo for example's sake that way. But I have some already from my student years, I think. This should have from my cast paintings. This is the case of I don't want to brag, but I will. But my teacher wanted to show my cast painting underdrawing as an example of, to other students as an example of how to, address these sharper articulation lines and the softer shadow edge articulation lines. So that's something I can be proud of. I feel I understood the concept pretty well. So yeah, this is very crude. You would want to go even thinner than this. This is actually pretty crude, honestly. Like it's when you're actually gonna go and paint over this, there's like 4 millimeters of ambiguity with this line. That's a huge difference when you're trying to go and decide like where to end your hand. But that's where you have to rely on your drawing skill again to make sure it kind of ends up in the right place. Yeah, so again, this is like a shadow edge. I don't know why I made it that way, so it's just kind of faded out. As you can see here, like the amount of paint I can put down with a single stroke is super limited. And it's because this brush is basically like something like bristle brush, but really like a small size round. Basically, it just kind of keeps the paint at the very tip, and when I scratch it off, there's no more paint coming out. So for detail work, you really want to have like soft, small brushes. And here I'm starting to realize I'm talking instead of focusing on the drawing, so kind of losing my anatomy here. Maybe it's a bit too much, this head of the ulna here, so let's try not to overplay that bump. So there's like two anatomical landmarks here. That's the pisiform, that's the distal head of the ulna, to throw in some anatomical information there. They're like recognizable bumps you can see in the hand. Actually here you can basically many times see a bit of the muscles of the thumb kind of bulging out. This here needs to be a lot steeper. Let's take this ambiguous stuff out of here. And maybe you noticed, but at this point, when I take my eraser over something very lightly, it's not even taking that much paint off anymore, which basically means it's drying really fast. So by tomorrow I can already go for the next layer if I wish to. Here I won't articulate the bottom there because I don't feel there's need for that. Maybe I'll actually redraw the watch here because that is something that is somewhat important to maybe just sketch out first, because yeah, there's this symmetry of the kind of the oval. Easier to make it more convincing here. Well, as you can see, it's not perfect, but I think it's, you know, close enough to look nice. I'm gonna make this strap look consistent. So yeah, let's redraw something like this. That went horribly. Let's wipe off some of the paint here. That would actually be a good way to get some of that anatomical bump in there. So yeah, I think that's enough for that. Looking at the painting now, I think there's a bit too much, you know, disparity between this and this, like this articulated drawing versus this kind of loose atmospheric drawing. And maybe at this point you can see why I would decide to just leave it at this stage, because this doesn't look as good as this. So I think actually I won't continue outlining everything from here. I like how this looks more. What I will do, however, at this stage, maybe quite possibly the last thing, I will go and add a bit of the information for the shirt here. So let's just find some of those folds. And here it's actually time to be maybe we can even leave some brush strokiness there. Not going too crazy, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Painting is an adventure. Sometimes. Less so when you approach it like this. There's not much room for happy accidents here. So there's this pillow thing coming from here. Some deep shadow crevice here. And there's a deep crevice of the shirt here. And some of folding fabric here. Drapery is really nice because you don't have to be super accurate, you just have to kind of place the things in similar positions, in similar, I mean, in a place that is similar to what you're seeing and similar shapes, then it's usually believable because it's kind of folding the same way it would be in the image. So, but yeah, drapery is all about like turning forms. There's the folds of the fabric always kind of form this roll-like shape. They can be small or they can be very large rolls of fabric. There can be many rolls of the fabric or waves of the fabric next to each other. Just gotta see them how they are, which are forms. And then there's light parts of the form and dark parts of the form. So you just kind of separate those, and you can make something look like fabric really simply with choosing the right value and putting it in the right place. The color is kind of optional there. And with that, you can even convey the sense of the actual texture of the fabric as well. You can look at some of like John Singer Sargent's work. I'm always going on about Sargent, sorry about that, but he's a master. So, and I mean, many of the 19th century portrait painters could pull off something like painting a beautiful satin dress in like a couple strokes, and it just conveys the feel of a satin dress. Like some people are kind of afraid of drapery because it seems so complicated, but once you've kind of mapped it out, it's really not that complicated. Just draw the things and draw the like shadowy recesses. That's a good way to start. Or draw the massive light shapes if it's a situation where there are no recesses but just subtle shifts. Those are good ways to start. Either or, whichever kind of dominates the fabric. shape. Like here, the biggest things I see is this kind of fold that goes all the way across to this color area here. And they're not going to be very accurate at this point, but you know, I can paint over them and make them look like forms in the next layer. So yeah, maybe I want to darken this portion a little bit more. So there's this kind of downward facing plane. I want to mention at this point something that is starting to happen, because it's been many hours since I started this project. Let's say it's been maybe 4 to 5 hours since I started putting paint down. So what's happening is the raw umber is kind of starting to tack up on this surface, and when I scrub it, it might leave some light marks where it kind of is removed from the canvas forcibly, since it's starting to get kind of sticky, because I'm applying it very thinly and it tends to dry very quickly. So it's getting to the point where it's wise to kind of continue the next day, since you might just kind of trying to apply a thin layer of paint might actually result in you just kind of peeling away a layer of paint instead. And it's not usually a uniform layer, but instead you kind of peel off the high points of the canvas texture, which just leaves this kind of spotty feeling. And it's not very nice looking, in my opinion. Kind of looks like maybe you made a mistake and had to like scrub the painting or something. So it's not, you know, it doesn't feel elegant like this kind of flat tone here. So yeah, I think I'm happy with the amount of information I have here. There's like sort of a map that I can at least understand myself. That will direct me in the next layer. Just darken this a little bit more. And a little bit more. You can see here, like if I pull a stroke, it starts kind of not getting darker, but instead it's getting lighter. So in that case, you just kind of want to blend whatever you have over that part and try to kind of mask it in. I'll just drop in this sharper line for the color to just separate the kind of neck area from that, then blend it out a little bit. So it at least won't have that paint texture we were talking about previously. So yeah, I think that about does it. So that's it for the underdrawing stage, as we would call it, basically. Next stage would be underpainting stage, which is for this project going to be a monochromatic underpainting using raw umber and white only. So no color involved at that point. Using raw umber and white will, you know, spare some value range for us for the final layer. And also, since we're gonna apply color on top using glazes in the final layer, the underpainting can remain a little bit lighter than the final product will be. So actually, the value range is going to be pretty good for this underpainting in the next stage. Yeah, maybe we're going ahead of things here, but yeah, hope you enjoyed this demonstration.